We've spent 2 classes on Rosh Hashanah. There is a holiday of Sukkot, so we're going to talk a little bit about Sukkot.
Okay, sounds good.
So first of all, Sukkot, what is Sukkot celebrating? And we have every holiday, right? We're celebrating the thing that happened on that day. So Pesach, we're celebrating the Jews leaving Egypt, and Shavuos, we're celebrating getting the Torah. So what happened on Sukkot?
I've always known it as a harvest holiday.
So it's a harvest holiday.
And
is this the first time they get manna, or is that completely wrong?
Is this the new week now?
I'll give you the simple answer, which is nothing. Nothing happened on the 15th of Tishrei. So what are we celebrating? What we're celebrating is something that happened all year round. We're celebrating, and sort of the Sukkah commemorates the clouds of glory which protected the Jewish people in the desert on the top, bottom, and sides. It protected them for 40 years, but it was every day of the year as they traveled through the desert, right, for 40 years. And according to another opinion, what it is that they were, the Sukkah actually reminds us of the thatched huts, that they actually lived in Sukkah-type thatched huts in the desert. But either way, this happened year-round for 40 years. So why now? Why now? And you touched on the aspect of the agricultural aspect of it, the harvest holiday, and the three pilgrimage festivals do follow the agricultural cycle. Pesach is the first planting, Shavuos is the first harvest, Sukkot is the last harvest. But again, why now? That you can have a harvest festival, right? Whenever. I mean, so we've got to say that there's something about this moment, this moment in time, right after Yom Kippur, that is relevant to what we're doing on Sukkot. So what we're looking at is a progression. On Rosh Hashanah, we start out with Rosh Hashanah and we declare that Hashem is king, right? And we say Hashem is in control over everything, Hashem rules everything, and like a king, Hashem answers to nobody. Hashem is not beholden to anybody. Right, and even a mortal king is beholden to the weather, right? Hashem is beholden to nothing and nobody. That's Rosh Hashanah. Then we get to Yom Kippur and we make it personal. We say, not only is Hashem not beholden to anybody, but we are not beholden to our physical bodies. That for one day on Yom Kippur, we're going to refrain from all of our regular human activities, eating, drinking, showering, right? We're going to refrain from all of that. And we're just going to be spiritual. That we are not limited, just like God is not limited, we are not limited by our physicality. So that's Yom Kippur. But that's great for one day for Yom Kippur, but the idea with Yom Kippur is, of course, it gives us that one day to escape our physicality and see what we can connect to, but then we got to bring the body along. And Sukkot is where we bring the body along. Because what do we do with the sukkah? What's the main thing you do with the sukkah? You sit in it. You sit in it. You live in it.
Yeah.
Right? So, whereas on Yom Kippur, everything we do is separating from our physicality, separating from our humanity. On Sukkot, we take the body. It is the only mitzvah that you do with your entire body. Right? You light Shabbos candles, you do it with your right hand. You put tefillin with your left hand. You learn Torah, it's with your mind, your lips. Right? Sukkah is the only mitzvah that you do with your entire body. There's one other mitzvah.
Guests.
Mikvah. Mikvah is the other mitzvah that you do with your whole body. But Sukkah is the only mitzvah that we all get to do with our entire body. So, Sukkah, right, we're bringing our entire body into the Sukkah, and we're saying that the very things that make us human, that's what we're going to do in the sukkah. And the bracha to sit in a sukkah, the bracha leishev b'sukkah, is only made not when you learn Torah in the sukkah, not when you pray in the sukkah. It's made only when you eat in the sukkah. When you're doing your most physical human thing, what keeps you alive, sustaining yourself, that's when you make the bracha leishev b'sukkah, to dwell in the sukkah. So Sukkot is about how now we can take our entire body and show that just like on Yom Kippur, we are not limited by our physicality, on Sukkot, we're showing that even our physicality, even our physical things that keep us alive, we can take that out of the home, out of the place of our safety, our safe place, our comfort zone, and we can take that out into a place where, like the Jews in the desert for 40 years, we are protected by Hashem, not by the brick walls of our home, right? We're in a sukkah, it's got a thatched roof. So we're taking our whole body along for the ride on Sukkot. And so that's the first thing we do on Sukkot. The very first mitzvah, the first night, is sitting in the sukkah, eating in the sukkah. And in fact, in general, if it's raining or it's uncomfortable or for whatever reason you can't eat in the sukkah, you don't have to. On the first night, if at all possible, we really try to at least make hamotzi in the sukkah. We really try. On the first night specifically, that's the mitzvah. And that takes us to the next morning. We have the second major mitzvah of Sukkot, which is, what's the other major mitzvah you would think of on Sukkot? Sleeping.
No, I'm just kidding.
I know it's
Shaking the lulav.
Shaking the lulav and esrog. That's right. So we have the lulav and esrog, which is actually 4 species, right? It's the lulav and the myrtle and the willow and the esrog. And so we have the next mitzvah, and this mitzvah is actually completely independent of the sukkah. We like to do it in the sukkah. It's a nice thing to do it in the sukkah. It does not need to be done in the sukkah. You can shake lulav anywhere. In fact, in many places, on Yom Tov morning, you bring your lulav to shul, and many people have the custom that you shake it in shul just before Hallel. So, and again, sometimes people take it out to the sukkah at the shul or whatever. It does not have to be done in a sukkah. So they seem to be independent of each other, but on one level, they must be connected because they're the 2 main mitzvahs of this one holiday of Sukkot. So what we see from Sukkot, we have the aspect of sitting in the sukkah and the aspect of the esrog. Now the esrog is, and we'll refer to the whole lulav, but the lulav and esrog is the 4 species, correlates to 4 types of Jews. Right? And you may have heard this. We have, each one has either taste or smell or both or neither. So the esrog, right, our esrog is something that has both a good taste and a good smell. And this is somebody who both is a Torah scholar, who both studies Torah, and that is taste. Because tam is the word for Torah, tam is the word for taste, it's also the word for reason. And taste, also when you learn Torah, you ingest it. You don't just, right, it's not just reading a book, you're ingesting the words of Torah. And one more way that the taste aspect is like the Torah is that taste is something that is enjoyable, but only for the person enjoying it. Right? It's not shared. I'm eating something, I'm tasting it. Hopefully if I'm eating it, you're not tasting it. So that is taste. Now the smell, which the esrog also has, that is mitzvahs. That is community involvement. That is something that everybody gets to enjoy. Right? You have a good smell, everybody in the room benefits from it. So the esrog is this individual who is both a studier and a community activist, somebody who does a lot of mitzvahs, who a lot of people benefit from. The lulav is from a date palm, so it has no good smell, but it's got dates. Dates have flavors, so that is our Torah scholar who may not be so involved in communal affairs. Our myrtle has a good smell. Doesn't really have a taste. You wouldn't want to eat myrtle, but it smells great. So that's our community activist out there in the community. Everybody loves him. Everybody benefits. I'm not such a big learner. And then we have our willows, which they're not so much of a learner. They're not so much of a doer. They're not an activist. They show up. And the thing, though, about taking the lulav and esrog is that not only do we put them all together and it's like, well, you know, Mr. Willow, you can come along. No, if you don't have the willow, it completely invalidates the mitzvah.
So it's the kahila.
It's the kahila. So it's the whole. But there's a difference between the way that the esrog is the whole and the way that the sukkah is the whole. Because in the sukkah, your whole body is in the sukkah. but there's no difference between the parts of your body. Your nose is in the sukkah, your toes are in the sukkah, your ears are in, right? Everything is in the sukkah just the same. The esrog, it's all together, but each one with its individual attributes and its individual gifts. And you know, with the esrog, right? If the Torah scholar decides that he doesn't want to be a Torah scholar, well, you know, it's not. He doesn't want to take his role. He doesn't want to be a Torah scholar. He doesn't want to be a teacher. He doesn't want. Then you know, that's not helping. So we bring all of the parts along in the esrog, and the sukkah is also an aspect of unity, but an undifferentiated unity. And this is why we start on the night of Sukkot with sitting in the sukkah, where it's our whole body, like the whole body of the Jewish people, undifferentiated, because it's the tendency of a person, right, to see themselves as separate from their community, as from their friends or people, right? I'm me or you, right? And, you know, let me do my thing like you do your thing, it's fine. But we want to overcome that tendency first. First, we sit in the sukkah and we show that our whole body, like the whole body of the Jewish people, is one inside the sukkah, all the same. And then the next morning, we can take the esrog and say, the esrog and the lulav and all of that, and say we each have our unique abilities, and when we come together, we can be a mitzvah. Now, the word sukkah also demonstrates the shape that a sukkah can be. What can be a kosher sukkah? The samach in the sukkah has 4 sides. It's a 4-sided sukkah. The chaf is 3 sides. And the hay has 2 sides and a bit. And all 3 of those are your kosher sukkahs.
Interesting.
And a lot of people prefer to have the full 4 sides, but halachically, we have all 3 parts. So the sukkah, there is this aspect of tolerance, right? You don't have to be the perfect 4. You don't have to be the perfect 4 sides. You can have 3 or even a little, 2 and a bit. Esrog, the esrog we said has the flavor and the smell. The esrog represents perfect, and this is why people will spend a ton of money and a ton of time. You go to the wherever you're picking up your esrogim, and you pick up your esrog. You look at it with a microscope, exactly, and the stem, and this, and that, how many dots, right? The esrog has to be perfect. The esrog cannot be blemished. It has to be perfect. And even the word esrog demonstrates perfection, because the word esrog stands for, Aleph, Taf, Resh, Vav, Gimel. No. Aleph, Taf, Resh, Gimel, esrog, which is 4 things that are perfect. Aleph is emunah shalema, complete faith, complete belief. Taf is teshuvah shalema, which we do on Yom Kippur. It's complete teshuvah. These are things that have to be perfect. Refuah shalema.
Recovery.
A recovery should be perfect. You don't want to be a little bit healed. A refuah should be a refuah shalema. And finally, we have the gimel, geula shalema.
So there's no vav.
No, the vav is a vowel. So geula shalema, that's complete redemption, right? That when Mashiach comes, it's not like we're going to be a little bit redeemed. Geula is something that is complete, as Rabbi said in the class last week, right? That when the big shofar blows at the end of days, everybody comes along. Everybody. So geula is also something that is complete. So esrog is complete. Now, so Sukkot is about this balance of the individual and the community, right? We have our individuals of our different types. We have this idea that there's a completion, and then there's the room for tolerance in the word sukkah itself. So moving on, we've sat in the sukkah, we've shaken our lulav, now we have chol hamoed. So chol hamoed is an interesting thing, right? Just the word. The word chol hamoed means ordinary and festival. Yeah, chol is ordinary, moed is festival. So chol hamoed, what we're doing is we're sort of internalizing how our ordinary days can be holy, and our holy days can become the new ordinary. Chol hamoed. Now, the last day of Sukkot, because Sukkot is really only 7 days, and Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah on the end are a separate holiday. The last day of Sukkot is Hoshana Rabbah. And there's a very interesting custom on Hoshana Rabbah. And that is that we take these myrtles, which, right, they just show up. They're not big in the community, they're not big mitzvah doers, they're not big learners. We take these myrtles, we take 5 myrtles together, and we whack them on the floor 5 times. It's kind of strange, right?
Perfectly normal.
And the interesting thing is too, when we set up a mathematical calendar, right? We no longer do our calendar by the new moon sighting, it's mathematical. And that allowed for certain sort of configurations, certain cheating things in a certain way. So, for instance, certain days can never fall out on Shabbos. And Yom Kippur will never fall out on a Sunday. It will never fall out on a Friday. Because we don't want to go right from Yom Kippur into Shabbos, and we don't want to go right from Shabbos into Yom Kippur. However, it falls out on Shabbos. Yeah, we can be on Shabbos. But what you don't want to have is you don't want to have all day Friday is Yom Kippur, and then you got to go into Shabbos, like where?
Seriously, like it's
Right?
like Thursday night.
Or going from Shabbos into Yom Kippur, because Erev Yom Kippur, there's all of, the preparations for Yom Kippur and all that. So, Yom Kippur will never fall out on a Friday or a Sunday. Rosh Hashanah can't fall out on Shabbos. And when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, we actually don't blow the shofar, right? The shofar, a biblical command, we don't do it on Shabbos.
Why?
Why?
Because it's Shabbos. Can't I get that?
So,
Well,
actually, the reason that we don't blow the shofar on Shabbos, a simple reason, is that it's a gezerah, it's a decree that if you blow the shofar on Shabbos, somebody might carry the shofar to the shul
Okay.
and thereby break Shabbos.
So it's
And
not about
it's-
the actual blowing of the
it's,
shofar.
right, and it's
defense law.
a special power that the rabbis have that they can't counteract a biblical decree, but they can do what's called sheva al tasa. They can tell you to simply not do something. They can't tell you to do something that is against a biblical decree, but they can tell you to not do something. So Rosh Hashanah, right? We don't bother to set things up that Rosh Hashanah you're always going to blow the shofar. But Hoshana Rabbah will never fall on Shabbos. Hoshana Rabbah, you always do this weird ceremony with the willows. So what's with the willows? What's with the willows? Well, you mentioned that we take the willows, we take 5 of them, and we smack them on the floor 5 times. So the number 5. 5, there are 5 letters that have special final letters in the Hebrew alphabet. Right? There is, make sure I get this right, there's Chaf, Mem, Nun, Fe, and Sadi. So 5 has a connotation of sort of limiting, ending, finish, stop. Not quite severity, but a certain limiting. So much so that in a Torah, actually, if 2 words are too close together in a Torah, they look like one word, the Torah is not kosher. You put it away, you can't keep reading it until it's fixed. If there's a final letter, if you have a final letter, then you're fine. It's considered the final letter lets you know that one word ends, the next word begins. Finito. 5. So sometimes limits are good, limitation is good. But on Sukkot, we want no limitations. Specifically, the name Hoshana Rabbah, the great Hoshana. What is a Hoshana? That every day of Sukkot, we do actually what was done in the Beis HaMikdash, which is we go around the shul with our lulav and we say special prayers called Hoshanos. They all go, Hoshana, save us. Hoshana. Ana Hashem Hoshiana. So on Sukkot, we are praying for a good year for salvation. So these Hoshanas, we want them to be unlimited. So on the final day of Hoshanos, we do the Hoshana Rabbah, the great Hoshana, and we smack the willows on the ground 5 times, that we're sort of taking this idea of limitation and beating it out. No limits on Sukkot. And that, of course, takes us into the next holiday, which is actually not Sukkot. It's its own holiday. We say Shechianu on it, Shmini Atzeres. So, Shmini Atzeres, literally, the 8th is a stopping, or the 8th is a rest point. So, if Sukkot is not celebrating something specific, Shmini Atzeres is even less specific. Shmini Atzeres is celebrating absolutely nothing. Shmini Atzeres is a holiday for the sake of a holiday. And we say that what the allegory that the rabbis give, that the Mefarshim give, they say, all month long we've been in the king's palace. All month long we've been celebrating the holidays, and in temple times everybody was in Yerushalayim, they were there for the festivals. And here it's come to the end, right? That's it, Hoshana Rabbah, we're done. So Hashem says, no, one more day. Let's celebrate for one more day. And then we have, right, Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. So outside of Israel, it's 2 separate days. They're one holiday, but we celebrate them as 2 different holidays. So Shmini Atzeres is God saying, stay with me one more day. And Simchas Torah is us reaching back and saying, just like you want to stay with us, we're going to respond to you, and we're going to celebrate with your Torah. We're going to give you a gift back, just like you gave us a gift of this holiday. But there's an obvious problem here, which is, very nice, we've been celebrating all Tishrei, it's been very nice, I want one last hurrah, one last day, but it's kind of only delaying the inevitable, right? I mean, so you have one more day, it's pleasant, but what do we get out of it? So, the wording of the rabbis, they say that Hashem feels that he's pained to see the Jewish people disperse at the end of the holidays. It pains him to see us disperse, and therefore he has this last holiday, Shmini Atzeres, before everybody leaves. So the idea is that something about Shmini Atzeres is not just that on that day we stop and we have one more holiday, but something about Shmini Atzeres itself is actually going to ease this pain of the Jewish people dispersing after this whole holiday period. So, what is it about Shmini Atzeres? Well, again, we can look at the name. Right? Literally, it just means the 8th is a stop, or the 8th day is a resting point. But 8, we know, is a very significant number. 8, right?
It's the spiritual.
Right, 8 is the spiritual. We have 7, the order of nature. And then 8, right, everything cycles in 7, 7 days, 7 years to the Shemitah, 7 Shemitas to the Yovel, right? 8 is one step beyond. 8 is moving beyond the limitations of the normal cycle and getting to the supranatural. So that what is going to ease the pain of the Jewish people dispersing is when we recognize that the whole point of the holidays and the whole point of the Jewish people and our gathering throughout this whole month is not simply to celebrate the holidays as we are, going through the days, all that. That our goal as Jewish people is beyond the normal cycle. It's beyond just walking through the holidays and going through the motions of doing that. It's to reach the infinite. It's to reach beyond nature. And so Shmini Atzeres is this day where we take all of the holidays that have been about different things, about declaring a Shem King on Rosh Hashanah, right? Finding our spiritual point on Yom Kippur, bringing in the body on Sukkot, and then on Shmini Atzeres, we take the whole thing one step further into the unlimited, into the infinite. And we say that what we are doing is we are now going to make all of our year supernatural, unlimited, that even as we go back into the normal cycle, the sevens, the weeks, the month, right? Even as we do that, we're taking this message of the spiritual boost of Tishrei, and we're taking that with us, and when we take that with us, then we're not dispersing, because then we realize the unity of our purpose, and how we as Jewish people have a higher call and a higher purpose that is not going to simply let us fall back into our daily lives. That's Shmini Atzeres. Simchas Torah. So we have Simchas Torah is the extra holiday that we have outside of Israel, right? In Israel, you have Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah are one day. But in the countries outside of Israel, where we have 2 days, we separate it into Shmini Atzeres, which is Hashem's gift to us, and Simchas Torah, which is our gift to Hashem. And what do we do on Simchas Torah?
I have a question before you go into Simchas Torah. So what do we do during Shmini Atzeres? I've always been confused.
So Shmini Atzeres is interesting. Shmini Atzeres is a holiday for the sake of a holiday. Some people have the custom to eat in a sukkah, but we don't make a bracha.
Okay.
And literally it is a holiday for the sake of a holiday.
You come to shul.
You come to shul, we daven,
It's kind of
and
like Shabbat,
it's,
in a way.
yeah,
You
we
rest.
spend time,
So it is a holy day.
yes, oh yeah, it's a Yom Tov. We spend time just like the first days of Sukkot. It's a Yom Tov, but it's a Yom Tov for the sake of a Yom Tov. It's just being together with Hashem. We move on to the second day of Shmini Atzeres, which we call Simchas Torah.
Okay.
And at that point, we're taking this idea that we have this higher purpose, this unlimited purpose, and we're bringing that into the physical. In Israel, you have 1 day Shmini Atzeres. It's enough. We've reached this unlimited point. We've reached this higher level, and that's going to carry us through to the year. But outside of Israel, we need a little more push. So we have this extra holiday, Simchas Torah, where just like we took the spirituality of Yom Kippur and brought it into the physical on Sukkot, we take the unlimited nature of Shmini Atzeres and bring it into the bodily physical on Simchas Torah. So that we have a holiday specifically to bring that infinity of Shmini Atzeres into this physical so that it'll carry us through the year. And how do we do that? What do we do on Simchas Torah? We dance. We dance. Right? What's something you do with your whole body? You dance. And what do? We don't just dance, we dance with the Torah. That we're taking this physical act, this bodily act of dancing, which is something that is so physical, so you know, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's you know, rhythm, it's so body. And when we dance with the Torah, what we're saying is that we are giving legs to the Torah, and that really the Torah wants to dance with us, but it can't. So we are dancing with the Torah. And also, of course, what do we do on Simchas Torah? Besides dancing, we get drunk. We read the last sections of the Torah. We read the last part of the book of Deuteronomy and start over with Bereshit, right? So it's a celebration of Torah. It's a celebration of the continuing cycle. But you would think, right, how would you, if you were going to celebrate Torah, what would be the obvious way to celebrate Torah? And I'll give you a hint. We have another holiday where we do it.
Read it.
reading.
Yeah.
Right. And what holiday do we, the other holiday that we have where we celebrate the Torah? When we got the Torah.
Shavuot.
Shavuos.
Yeah.
So so you have a holiday called Shavuos, and what do we do on Shavuos? We study, right? We stay up all night, we study. So that would sort of seem to be the obvious thing. Like, what's this dancing? So this brings us back to the whole idea of Sukkot, and the whole idea of Shmini Atzeres carrying us into the year, which is this unity, that when you study Torah, everybody is different. Everybody learns it differently. You have different opinions in Torah. You have different approaches, right? This person likes the homiletical approach. This person likes the historical, the this, the that, right? This person likes the Talmud. When you dance, everybody dances the same. Nobody dances more or less. Well, some of us may have better moves, but But when you dance, dancing is dancing, right? So when we dance, the Torah is closed. It's not about the ideas, the words. Of course, that's important, but at a certain point, it's this same point that we said when we were asked if we wanted the Torah. We said, "Naseh v'nishma," we will do and then we will hear. That our love for the Torah is not simply because of what's in it. Our love for the Torah is because it's Hashem's gift to us. And so when Hashem gives us a gift of Shmini Atzeres, we say, we're going to gift back to you by dancing with your Torah, which we love. And that is Simchas Torah, where we have this partying and dancing all through, and that takes that last tail end of Tishrei, where we've been spiritual, and we've been in the sukkah, and we've been incorporating our body, and we've been unlimited. Now, we close the Torah, and we dance. And we say, this is going to be our year. As we move on in the year, this is what's going to carry us through, is our simple love of the Torah, and our unity as a Jewish people. It's not about the different opinions. It's not about this one learns Torah this way, this one learns Torah that way. It's about this Shmini, this infinite, that is going to carry the message of Tishrei all the way through our year. And on that note of the supernatural and the dancing, in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, there was a special ceremony that was done throughout the days of Sukkot. It's called Simchas Beis HaShoeva. So throughout the year, whenever you bring a sacrifice in the temple, you would bring a wine libation. You would pour some wine on the altar with your sacrifice. This was, right? We read in Musaf on Shabbos. It says, it says the sacrifices. When we read in Musaf about the sacrifices, the extra sacrifices we bring on Shabbos, it says the sacrifices and their libations. So all year round we use wine. But there was something different about the way it was done on Sukkot. See, on Sukkot, it was a wild, crazy, happy time in the temple, in Yerushalayim. It was partying all through the night. It says that everybody would gather in the Beis Hamikdash and they would dance 7 days straight. They would dance, they would sing, and people would perform. The heads of the academies, the scholars, the Torah leaders, they would dance, they would juggle fire, they would do acrobatics. So much so.
Why? Was it because of the harvest?
So we'll see. I mean, it's partly the harvest, but there's something about Sukkot. In fact, the name for Sukkot, right? Every holiday in the davening we say Rosh Hashanah is, Yom Kippur is Yom HaZikaron hazeh, right? Yom Kippur is Yom HaZikaron, and Pesach is Chag HaMatzos hazeh. And for Sukkot, what we have, the sort of subtitle of Sukkot is Zman Simchasenu, the time of our rejoicing. So something about Sukkot is joyous. And what's going on is that this whole partying circles around this Simchas Beis HaShoeva, the joy of the house of pouring. what is going on? We're pouring a libation, but during Sukkot, it's not a wine libation. You would think for joy, right? Joy, wine. Wine is festive, it makes you happy, but when you want to get to true unlimited unbridled joy, so much so that the Talmud says, if you did not see Simchas Beis HaShoeva in the Beis HaMikdash, you have never seen true joy. To get to that point, we pour water. Simchas Beis HaShoeva, we pour water. Why? Water is such a simple,
yeah.
right? It's not.
It's life, though.
It's life. I mean,
It's
we're
life. Water.
90%
Is
water.
right. Water is life. Water is basic, right? Water has this idea of growth. Water is also, in a sense, has a connotation of being unlimited. It's got no flavor. It's got no color. It's blank. It's like white light, right? So water is unlimited. Wine has a specific flavor, a specific color. It's a type of wine. Water is just water. And so part of what the Simchas Beis HaShoeva is that, as you said, there's an agricultural aspect to the holiday, and there's an aspect of that we're praying for adequate rain during the winter for the crops. But the fact that it's this sort of unbridled, amazing joy throughout the holiday is because we are centering our whole joy around the concept of being unlimited. So Sukkot is unlimited. Sukkot is when we take all of the spirituality that we've got from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and we say, I'm going to take my body into it, so I'm not even limited by my body. I'm not even limited by my humanity. I can celebrate, I can do a mitzvah with my whole body, my whole humanity. And so that becomes the most joyful declaration that we can make. That this time when we see that Sukkot is this balance, right? It's as we said, we sit in the sukkah and everything is the same. We're all the same. We're all one Jewish people. And we have the Lulav and Esrog, which is all types of Jewish people. And we're all together. And nothing holds us back. That is the simcha of Sukkot. And again, the simcha of Shmini Atzeres leading into Simchas Torah.
I love the connection that you said that of the mikvah also.
Mm-hmm.
That it's the other mitzvah that we use our whole body.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were doing the libations with water,
Mm-hmm.
so there's a connection with the mikvah.
Yeah, yeah. So water, there is an aspect of water that is unlimited, right? And when you do mikvah with your whole body, it is, again, something that you're doing that is taking the whole body and lifting it up into the spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
So it's bringing the body along for the ride until we get to a point where really it's not, we get the body to see what the body really wants to do, because, the way the body is created, it thinks all it wants is, candy and naps. But, what it really wants, when we make it clear, what the body really wants is to participate in the mitzvahs. And that's the opportunity we're giving on Sukkot. So we're a little early, but I'm going to end off there. We got through the whole holiday. So. Thank you.